Welcome back to AfricaCom TV. Some important conversations happening here at AfricaCom, the largest gathering of its kind. And of course, it's all about how we can create a better digital future. And joining me now at AfricaCom TV is Monica Singer. Monica is a South African lead for Consensys. Lovely to have you here at AfricaCom TV.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
You'll be giving a talk on blockchain, which is something that I think very limited number of people understand, but it's going to impact on all of us in some way or the other. Why is it important for business leaders in Africa to understand blockchain?
Okay, so blockchain is going to be the next internet revolution. So in the same way that in 1994-95, when the internet was created, we started sending emails. At that time, you couldn't have imagined that one day, not too far in the future, you were going to use a WhatsApp app to talk to your family anywhere in the world for free. Have you ever? And that's why this blockchain technology, which is the internet of value, is going to change absolutely everything. And today, we cannot even begin to imagine how is it going to affect our lives. But I believe that Africa has got the opportunity to get on the bandwagon now. Why? Because it is the internet. And therefore, you should be implementing new solutions in this space and testing. There are so many areas that you could actually benefit from by starting at least to do prototypes of proof of concepts, by training, by educating, and therefore embracing this opportunity before others in other countries in the world implement this technology and bring it to us, to our consumers, in the internet. And that's what we need to now say, no ways. We have an opportunity to now conquer our own continent.
Financial inclusion, I suppose, has been another big conversation at AfricaCom. Will blockchain help with that?
100%, because think about it. Blockchain was created by this white paper that created Bitcoin. So the whole idea has always been to create a currency for the world, one currency in the internet without intermediaries. So what affects us in Africa is that we are dependent on a banking system that still requires people to go to a bank, to a branch. People don't have transport and they risk losing the money. This should be unacceptable. People in Africa, we're all using cell phones.
Yes.
So we should enable this technology, the internet of value, using our cell phones so that we can reach every corner of Africa and every human being in Africa and give them the financial, not only inclusion, but independence that will make them prosperous into the future.
So it will have a positive impact on this topic.
And that's why that Bitcoin was created. It didn't succeed in being a payment mechanism because the value fluctuates. But there are so many new coins and new ways of payments that are coming up in the market that will resolve the problem that was created with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was the genesis, but it just gave us the new paradigm to know how to create a new future.
So aside from finance, which other areas will be disrupted by blockchain?
Every area. You give me an industry and I tell you how it's going to be done. I give you some little examples, like for example, medicine.
Yeah.
Medicine will change completely. Why? Because the medical records will be kept by you, the patient, not anymore by the doctors, the hospitals, the pathologists. Imagine you now have your complete file and of your medical history. So every time you get sick, you know, the doctor says, okay, give me your medical history. When you're sick, you don't remember.
Yeah.
You will have that electronically. You will feed that to the doctor. Before even seeing the doctor will plug it into artificial intelligence. It will tell you in advance what is wrong with you. That's one example. The other example, I don't know, I used to work for the World Bank, and one of the biggest problems that we had is that the money was given to the country for a project, and the money then disappeared, and a year later, we send the auditors to see where the money went. This technology ensures that you track where the money goes from day one. It's so transparent that you can see the ledger, the entries as to where the money is being spent real time. Do you know that the audit profession is going to change? The auditors won't come a year later. The audit will be done on a real-time basis. So all the corruption and fraud that we have experienced in the world, that will disappear if the country is committed to eradicating fraud. You implement a blockchain solution because what it has is called an immutable ledger that all the parties can see at the same time, and therefore you will know exactly where the taxpayers' money is being spent. No more this wasteful expenditure that we're suffering, no more corruption. But you require the political will of the country to say, do I really want this transparency? Even to the extent of voting, you will be able to know who's voting for what.
Yeah.
Everything will be transparent and immutable. So this ledger is very difficult to modify. So then it prevents fraud, it prevents having to do reconciliations. You know why? Because all the parties in the transaction get to do the journal entries at the same time. So I don't need to reconcile.
Those are amazing ideas.
Yeah.
Are any of those in practice right now?
Of course.
Are there areas where blockchain has been used successfully for a positive outcome for not only obviously the person who's brought it on, but the customers that they're serving as well?
Of course, Consensys is the biggest blockchain company in the world. I'm very privileged to represent them in Africa, and we already have implemented in many countries in the world. For example, in social impact, we have a project in Australia with a worldwide fund. We have POCs that we've done, not only Consensys, but blockchain with the World Bank. They have done POCs to implement this transparency. Then the one on trade finance. Trade finance, as you know, is many banks and many parties trying to record the transactions when you do import-export. You know that it's so complicated because you never know where the goods are, where the ship is, who's charging for what. There's a lot of fraud because people inflate or deflate the invoice value. Imagine that you bring all the parties of an import-export transaction in the same ledger, watching the goods from the time it leaves the original port until it lands in the port of destination, and everybody can see where the goods are, what the charges are, what is going to happen when it arrives. Already that is a project that we are live with many banks in the world called Comjo, and encourage your listeners to actually Google this project. But there are many, and it's in every industry. Even in sports, we are launching a project with great sport companies, because imagine that you can create, the fans will then be able to get like a coin, a digital coin that they can actually use to get, we call it a utility token, and this utility token will give them the ability to buy, all the gear that they like, to attend the games at a cheaper rate, to vote for their, the top preferred candidates, the players. There's so many uses. Once you know that this technology is a ledger, it's for value, it's immutable, it's transparent, it's the internet. And the final thing I want to say to your listeners is that in 2014, when Ethereum was created, the creators of Ethereum put this functionality called a smart contract. Smart contract is incredible. What you do is you program in the computer this possibility that says, if this happens, therefore that happens.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. Let's assume I'm a lessee and assign in the internet of value this contract that I'm going to lease this property, and the lessor doesn't have to phone me at the end of the month if I don't pay.
Yeah.
The contract will say, if I don't pay, there will be an IoT device. I'm inventing this, but it can happen subject to the law. An IoT device that says, if I cannot get the money out of my account, the lessor cannot get the money off, the lock will be shut off. So this, and for Internet of Value, the combination of blockchain and Internet of Value is incredible, because IoT, we know it can be hacked, but if you put it in a blockchain, it's much more complicated. The other thing I didn't explain to your listeners is that the blockchain the ledger can be duplicated in as many countries in the world at the same time. So imagine how difficult it's going to be for the hackers to try to hack this technology. Do you know what I mean? Because now you have those honeypot ledgers that is one central database that the hackers go in and take the data, and it can be hacked. But when you have the duplication all around the world, it's really, really hard. So even for cybersecurity, and the final one that for me is incredible. Think about what happened in Syria when these people, poor people, they had to run away from the bombs. The only thing they were carrying was the cell phones.
Yeah.
Imagine if we had been already able to include in the blockchain their identity, their passports, their assets, their degrees, the whole life history in the blockchain in a cloud. They just took the cell phone with them. They get to, let's say, Germany. They can prove that they're doctors, accountants, lawyers. Today, those people cannot prove anything. They don't even have a passport. And those people then become destitute, abandoned by society. That's going to change because we're creating what is called a self-sovereign identity, meaning the identity of each individual will be recorded in a blockchain, in the internet, in a cloud, and that would be permanent no matter which country you go to. And there's so many people that don't even have identities. They were never given a passport or an ID, and they become no one.
Yeah.
That has to end.
Sounds absolutely exciting. Thank you very much, Monica Singer, South African lead for Consensys, trying to unpack the meaning and value that we can extract from blockchain and the Internet of Value.